Happy birthday, Milan! Happy birthday, Milan! Happy birthday! What a botched celebration this was on Sunday evening. I cannot tell you how disappointing the whole thing feels. You have this great occasion, you have this great celebration ahead, and even there already, things did not look okay in Milan land. Honestly, I loved it. At the head of the game, they brought out all the stars, bring the trophies, and yes, I shed some tears when the three Dutchmen held the Champions League trophy, walking onto the pitch. Although they won the European Cup still, the Champions League was a little bit after them. Yeah, this was all great. I was even surprised that, for instance, Pirlo came to this celebration with a Milan scarf, as his relationship with the club is not that great, and we knew he grew up an Inter fan, then became a great player at Milan, but ended the career as a Juve icon. So, rather mixed results there as well. But there was the big missing component. And yes, Franco Baresi was there, but he did not take center stage. Who should be there? What's the one player that actually represents Milan to a T? Of course it's Maldini, but he is not on good terms with the club leadership. Speaking of which, guess who was also not there? The president, Cardinale. That's the one great celebration, and you completely mess it up. Now, another thing that Milan got right. I mean, those anniversary jerseys, especially as a kid, look absolutely gorgeous. I'm not sure about this first-time crest that looks potentially a little bit odd on the jersey, but having such a clean jersey, no sponsor. I mean, this jersey is the quintessential centenary jersey, but it has this sponsor on there. The 125-year kit doesn't have a sponsor. That makes it actually look even cooler in that sense. And the kit looked wonderful. But then the performance, it was a 0-0 draw. Yes, you dominated the game. We'll talk about that game later. But it's not the celebration you want, especially in a must-win game. But there's also another problem. Fonseca is trying to get the squad to play his way and not be so individually asinine. And I'm speaking especially of Theo Hernandez, who was dropped. He actually did a great thing. He played some youngsters, and maybe this is the way to go. Maybe in the future we will thank Fonseca for actually making a little bit of a change, but this club at the moment is in such a mess, and I think this looks more or less like the Napoli season from last year, where it's slowly falling away. And I'm not sure if Fonseca will hold on to his job. Honestly, I would like to see him out, and that he cleans up this squad of the tired players from the past and maybe get something out of Rafa Leao. And if Theo Hernandez doesn't want to comply, at the moment I'm ready to say goodbye to him, although he was probably Milan's at least second best player for quite a few years, but at the moment not working at all. And so yes, this whole celebration, again, there were some really nice parts in there, but there were also some glaring misses and botched things in there. And then when you look just at the choreografia, that 2/3 of the stadium did very well, but the ultras just held up banners, happy birthday Milan, but please Americans sell the club, tells you where it's at. Fortunately for Milan, they're not the only big club in trouble, because there's also Juventus, a team that just cannot create chances and barely got a draw against last place Venezia, a game they absolutely should have lost. But there's also quite some positive things. For once, the team that I'm wearing, actually Verona, got a pretty big win at Parma, an absolute crazy game. But of course we have to talk top of the table. Atalanta, 10 wins in a row, very lucky win though, at Cagliari. And then of course Inter making an absolute statement, going to Lazio and winning 6-0. At this moment, the Scudetto is between those two teams. Maybe Napoli can join in if they get their act together, like they did in the second half at Udine. But at the moment, I would say Atalanta and especially Inter still have to be considered the major favorites for this title. Both squads really deep, a lot of variability in there. Really like what's going on, except that I don't like it because they're not two teams that I support. But if you just like Calcio, those two teams are really fun to watch, I have to say. Again, not necessarily for me. And then we also had a little fun matchup in Bologna, where Bologna largely outplayed Fiorentina. Fiorentina's winning streak after 8 games ends against their former coach Italiano, who then celebrated crazily to the dismay of all Fiorentina fans and also the staff, because Italiano doesn't really have the feeling. I mean, Coach Palladino was missing because his mother died. So much death going around Florence at the moment that, tame it a little bit down did not happen. So yeah, I would say let's dig into this round and we'll look at the situation of the table right afterwards. One must have been a real Serie A nerd to watch Friday evening's game between Empoli and Torino, but if you did, you were rewarded with probably the goal of the season so far. Shea Adams in 70th minute, lobbing it over the goalkeeper from just outside of the center circle. Absolutely mad goal. The trajectory though was rather flat. You would expect something higher, but it was a really, really good goal and a highlight for sure of the entire season. Then Atalanta had a uncharacteristically flat performance at Cagliari. Cagliari, especially in the first half, much the better team, having 4 shots on goal to Atalanta's 0. However, there's a resilience to this Atalanta side, and they get the winner through Zaniolo in the 66th minute, who had just come on. Then Zaniolo and Lukman, as Cagliari are pressing forward, actually had the big chance to make it 2-0. However, Zaniolo cannot pull it over to Lukman, who would be absolutely free, and it is Luperto who made an excellent tackle to take the ball off Zaniolo, but it ends with an Atalanta win. They stay top of the table. Napoli also got a big bounce-back win at Udinese. They were 1-0 down at the half through a Thauvin penalty rebound goal in the 22nd minute. However, in the second half, Lukaku very early on after the McTominay assist gets the equalizer. Then it is an own goal by Giannetti. However, this was all David Neres who takes the run, takes the shot. It's just deflected into net in the 76th minute. And then Anguissa just a few minutes later makes it a 3-1 win for the Neapolitans, who keep up the pressure on Atalanta. And typically the evening game between Juve and Venezia should have been a foregone conclusion. Easy Juve win. And the only bright light of Juve in these days, Gatti gave Juve duly in the 19th minute the lead. But Venezia had their chances. There had been some big saves already in the first half by Di Gregorio. But in the second half, Ellertson in the 61st minute gets an equalizer for Venezia. And Itzes, after Caviglia assist, even gets the go-ahead goal. And it looked like Venezia is going to see this out. However, then it's a cross in. And as a handball, I have to say I hated that decision for that handball, because there was really not much the player could do. So Vlahovic then converts in the 95th minute the penalty, and that was more or less the last play of the game. In a rather entertaining game, Lecce beat Monza 2-1 at home. Huge 3 points for Lecce for their survival, but also putting Monza in even more trouble, and coach Nesta on the verge of the sack. The man of the game was Kristovic, who after missing a penalty actually gets the winning goal for Lecce just before half-time. Before that, Tete Moreno and a Dorgu own goal. In the Apennine derby, Bologna more or less outplay Fiorentina for most of the game. However, they get one single goal around the hour mark, a ball into the box from Ferrola finds Odgaard, who gets the winner. The big talking point, of course, were then the celebrations of coach Italiano right afterwards, especially since he just came from Fiorentina to Bologna. At the same time, we also had a pretty wild 3-2 win for Hellas Verona at Parma. Much needed points. Both teams play wide open, which is very uncharacteristic for two relegation threatened teams. Verona taking the early lead through Coppola. However, Som in the 90th minute equalizes for Parma. The game ebbs and flows after the break. Sarr reestablishes the lead for Verona. Mosquera actually gets then the winning goal in the 75th minute. However, Som himself pulls one back in the 90th. There wasn't a push by Parma, but too little too late. Also a little bit odd to see Parma in those blackout fourth kits. And it needed stoppage time for Como to get a 2-0 win over Roma, a game that was really not that great. Roma had tons of possession but created nothing out of it. And in the end, it's Gabrielone after Cutrone cross in that gets the winner for Como in the 93rd minute. And then it's a counterattack when Roma were pushing for the winner, where Gabrielone finds Paz, who can put it more or less in the empty net. It was very much a botched 125-year anniversary for Milan, and yes, I admit to tears ahead of the game when the three Dutchmen walked out with the European Cup trophy and all the other Milan greats. That was good. I was sorry that Milan fans had it with the current team and especially with the club leadership because they didn't really participate in the huge tifo that was made at San Siro. So that was definitely one statement. Another statement, of course, was that Maldini was not there. And if there's one player that to me represents Milan to a T, it is Paolo Maldini. He put out a statement, happy birthday Milan, nothing can come between the love between you and the Maldini clan. Says it more or less all. And then it didn't help that the team itself only played out a 0-0 draw at home to Genoa. A Genoa team that only came there to actually get a draw out of this. They didn't create much, they just sat back. They're still unbeaten under new coach Vieira. Fonseca knows that there are problems with Milan. That's why he tried to make changes, because the ill discipline in the squad is really also getting to him, of course. And so he played Jimenez and Liberali, who were actually two of the high points in the game, I gotta say. The other one, of course, was Tijani Reinders. So all relatively new players in there. Leao, I give him, there was effort there, but up front with Tammy Abraham, not working. Morata came on in the second half, had the biggest chance for Milan, but he also had a few really bad misses. The one where he hit the crossbar late on, yes, this should have gone in. This was the best chance for Milan. But if you take that out, not that many chances overall. A rather dull night in what should have been a major celebration, but the result was befitting all the mistones surrounding this celebration. And on Monday, the Italian TV billed the clash between Lazio and Inter as a super partita. However, it was a super smackdown. Inter delivered 6 against Lazio away from home. An absolute statement win. But the curious thing is that Lazio actually started brightly, had a little bit more of the game early on. However, as the game went along, Inter got better and better in the game. And then it's a corner kick that actually breaks the game in Inter's favor, where after a corner kick, there's a melee in the box where seemingly the Fry scores the go-ahead goal. However, Lautaro's knee goes into Gigot and his head, and he's lying on the floor. However, crucially before that, the ball hits his wrist. Rather weird penalty, to be honest, but by the rules, it is a penalty. Çalhanoğlu converts, and then just a few minutes later, Dumfries crosses in, and Di Marco expertly slots it home. 2-0 at the halftime, that was already the game. Then we saw the goal of the evening by Nicolo Barella. From a technical perspective, this was a much better goal than the one by Jay Adams, although I think a Jay Adams goal from halfway line, this will always be special. However, this was a perfect drop kick. You can see how Barella lets the ball jump in front of him. On the way down, he puts the foot through it and it flies wonderfully into the net. And then just 2 minutes later, Denzel Dumfries 4-0 and Lazio were in tatters and tears. Carlos Augusto and Marcus Thuram add 2 more. And I guess they were going for goal difference. Yes, goal difference doesn't count for much in Serie A. Brilliant performance by Inter. Ruthless performance by Inter, completely taking Lazio apart. Total statement win, and watch out Serie A. I think this is what they were saying. Well, if you're a Milan fan like me, the table makes not for pretty reading at the moment. With a game in hand, which is at Bologna, who had just overtaken you, you're 8 points behind the Champions League spot. I would say maybe 7, because I think more than a draw at Bologna is probably not in there at the moment, especially that Bologna is gaining a little bit of momentum. But similarly for Juventus, I mean, just a tad better, but Juventus is also off the pace, and their recent performances do not suggest that there is an improvement coming relatively soon. Also, injuries play a major role in that downturn. However, I think Inter's win at Lazio definitely is kind of a silver lining, because Lazio actually shown their vulnerability there, that maybe they might fall off. And similar Fiorentina, I think Lazio and Fiorentina are 2 teams that maybe have a good start but might not be able to sustain it. Although I really like overall what I've seen from these teams, and I actually would be in a way happy if those teams could keep it up. Of course, I would love it more if Milan could sneak in, but at the moment they won't deserve it. At the moment, I'm not even sure that Milan will make the Conference League. Up top, it's a three-way title race at the moment. However, I feel that Inter, after this performance, they really showed that they are just on a different level from everyone else, and the only team that I would think could challenge them is Atalanta. However, Gasperini has a horrific record against Inter, so in the head-to-heads, it probably will be decided, and that goes in Inter's favor. Therefore, Inter should be considered the big favorites. We also have a relatively large relegation zone. I mean, arguably below Milan, Udine, it starts because 20 points is just 6 above the first relegation spot. And maybe with the way Milan is playing, they might get into there as well. At the moment, Milan is more in the midfield and they are towards the top of the table. However, speaking of relegation, I mean, Monza and Venezia already are a little bit struggling. They are 4 points behind Cagliari, 5 points behind the saving 17th spot. This was a huge win for Verona at Parma. They have a lifeline, but now Parma, Como, Hellas in there as well. Also huge win for Como, of course. Roma dangerously hanging in there. Honestly, I think Roma will be safe, but if they go into another spiral, they actually might find themselves in a very unprecedented relegation battle. That's not Roma standard, but I think that Ranieri will get things right. In the midweek, we have 4 more Coppa Italia matches to complete the round of 16. Juve play at home against Cagliari, Atalanta against Cesena, Roma against Sampdoria, and Inter against Udine. I actually think the Juve and the Roma games might be the most interesting one because I think the outsiders would fancy the chances there. I don't see Atalanta or Inter losing at home. And then the final Serie A round before Christmas, and we're going really right up until Christmas. I guess on Christmas Eve I will post the next review, including the cup games. Maybe I'll throw in a few short videos here and there. Milan play already on Friday away to Hellas Verona. Must-win game. I keep repeating myself. However, as I said, the team is in a funk. Genoa Napoli sounds like an interesting challenge because since Vieira took over, Genoa are still unbeaten. Lazio have to make up at Lecce. We have Roma against Parma. That could be a fun game because Parma is so wide open. Atalanta will have to face Empoli and Inter Como. Should be a foregone conclusion, but you never know. Also look at Monza Juventus. Remember when Monza came up and beat Juve? Yeah, let's see if they can repeat it, but Monza are in a similar funk as are Juve. And of course, I shouldn't forget about a classic Serie A duel in Torino against Bologna. Maybe not the most exciting one, but I think this could be a fun one. Okay, those were my thoughts on the past Serie A weekend. I wish I would be a little bit more cheery. This Serie A season is actually a really good one. The thing is though that 2 of the teams that I really like in Milan and Roma are not doing well. So my overall mood watching Serie A is not that great. But if I separate myself from these 2, the title is exciting, the relegation fight is exciting. There's a lot of good stuff happening in Serie A and the league actually looks quite healthy. Now let's hope that there's a little bit more money flowing in. Let's get Serie A back where it belongs, and maybe a few new stadiums will also help. In any case, let me know your thoughts on Serie A. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. I'll talk to you soon about more things in my Serie A universe. Bye! Hey there! I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, here are some videos and playlists that you may enjoy too. Also, please consider subscribing to my channel and hit the little bell icon so you get notified whenever something happens in my soccer universe. And with that, have a wonderful day. Bye!